line. We're going to go to Kay. I think it's Janina. Let's see if I'm pronouncing that correct. Is it Janina? Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're in Michigan, I see.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how may I help you today, Janina?
Well, um, my husband came to me back in July and told me that he was wanting a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
and he has been fighting me on it for a while now.
What does that mean, fighting
He
you?
tells me that I don't want the divorce.
Okay,
I've been trying my pies and everything, and I've done fairly well in my opinion.
okay.
Um, he finally tells me that a lot of the problem is like nagging, I guess, per se.
Mm-hmm.
Within the last couple of years, he said he's been falling out of love with me,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I'm trying to give that. I give him space and everything else and what he needs and
Okay, did
whatnot.
you hear this kind of
I,
complaint from
but
him before he decided he wanted a divorce? For example, in the last couple of years, has he said anything about you nagging or anything else? Or are these things that are kind of coming out of the blue now that he tells you he wants a divorce?
it was kind of off and on. He travels for work,
Mm-hmm.
and that has been within the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of it is the thing that he got his freedom and he enjoys it,
Freedom meaning what?
and meaning he can go have fun. He goes all over the place around the states. He travels everywhere. He ventures around and he does everything by himself without the wife or anything like that.
So I'm hearing you
We
say
have
that you don't
two
think it's
kids.
because of your nagging. I'm hearing you say you think it's because of the fact that he doesn't want to be married. Is that what you're thinking?
Right.
Okay.
And there's no other woman that he says there's not, so I trust that there's not.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Why? Why do you
he
trust
will
that?
get
If he says no other woman, why do you
because he's
trust that?
never done that. We've been together. He's never done that to me. We've been together 17 years,
Mm-hmm. And so you
and
think that's an
I try
impossibility for
to.
him?
I think it's a possibility, but I don't think he would ever go to that extreme
Okay, so what
because
is it that's
he
pulling
tells
him
me
then?
that he doesn't.
You see, when we look at a marriage, we say
I
either a
don't
person's
know.
being pushed out, and if you're nagging a lot, if you really were doing that, then we can understand the push. But what I'm hearing you say is you don't think you did that much. And am I just misunderstanding what you're saying?
I I I think I did do it for quite a while
Okay.
because I missed him. He travels at
Oh,
least 2 weeks out of a month,
okay.
so I missed him, and so that was a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he tells me now he doesn't want to be tied down to anybody. He wants to be a single father and just do what he wants, come and go as he pleases.
Okay.
And I- I'm so lost and confused.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can understand.
I don't know. He will be, he'll have days where he's really nice and it's like he's kind of coming back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing I hear the next day is we are getting a divorce. We are separated. And he
Mm-hmm.
sleeps in a different room now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he claims that we have every other weekend with the kids. I don't understand how you can pull that one off, but we live under the same roof.
So,
It's just he's
mhm.
got in his mind he wants a divorce, and there's no turning him back.
Okay, and he is planning to live someplace else, I assume, when he divorces, or still live with you.
Well, that's where it gets confusing. He wants to live in the same house and raise our kids together. We have an 8 and 10-year-old,
But he wants to be divorced.
and that's where I'm right.
Hmm. And I'm assuming that you've
I,
asked him to
I, I,
explain that, and when you do, what does he say?
he doesn't really explain much. He just says he wants to get along for the kids.
Hmm.
And sorry, there's a helicopter coming over my house.
Okay. Well,
um,
then I guess I'm having some confusion here, and sure, I can understand your confusion. I'm confused as well, where it's
yeah,
like, well, why does he, if he wants, why does he want to live there and be divorced? What is it that he gains by being divorced? Has he ever mentioned that at all?
that's not a freedom. Apparently, he claims that our marriage certificate is just a piece of paper that holds us together.
Uh-huh. And so, if he's
Yeah,
going to live at the same house with you, still be traveling 2 weeks out of the month, those kinds of things, How is that any different than having being married and not being married? That's what I'm confused with. Something about this just doesn't make a lot of sense.
That
Are you guys religious people by any chance?
I am. He's kind of on the fence over it.
Okay, was he
Um,
before? Was he earlier a religious person?
yeah.
And when did
He,
that change?
was he this person?
Yeah, I'm saying when did his?
He's always been that way.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm happy for you that you're doing the
Yeah.
things you should be doing, which, you're working on your pies. And for those people that don't, that just tune in and don't understand that, that means that Janina's becoming the best she can be physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. That's what the PIES stands for. And so in this particular situation where he's dead set on divorce, you say you're fighting him. I'm assuming that you have an attorney. Is that correct?
I do not. No, I've kind of been letting it go with the flow, basically, because
Mm-hmm.
he says he's filing, and then he hasn't filed in a month after he told me he was filing.
Okay. Now I guess that's
So
a good thing.
I don't.
Mhm. Does he have an attorney as far as
That's
you
how
know?
I see it.
Hmm. Does he have an attorney?
No.
Okay. So far it's
No,
just
he
him.
wants to do this together.
Okay.
Huh?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted. It's he's wanting you to just walk down somewhere and sign a piece of paper. Is that basically what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, he wants to do this just however we feel fit that it's going to be okay to make us through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not okay with that. My husband, I feel like I've been a very good wife and I'm a very good mom.
Mm-hmm.
I moved from Tennessee to Michigan to
Mm-hmm.
be with him
Mm-hmm.
because he had left me after 1 year of marriage. He moved down to Tennessee, we got married, and a year later he moved and left me and come up here. So I told him that I would move to Michigan and we would
Mm-hmm.
work it out
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
We did. Here
Mm-hmm.
it is 15 years later, and he's pulling the same thing, and I almost feel like it's a midlife crisis type thing. I mean, he has nothing behind this. He's a firefighter, so I helped him through all of that. He's a fire instructor. I helped him through that. We're both
Mm-hmm.
EMS. I helped him through that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we have done, I have put myself on the back burner for
Mm-hmm.
him and my kids, which I don't regret that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this is the thank you that I'm getting out of
Yeah, it's definitely
me
not
being
fair,
me.
is it? I can understand that. I mean, you sacrificed quite a bit, and it's certainly not fair that he's doing this. So it's kind of an unusual situation
No.
you're describing here. But here's what I'm going to summarize what I've heard you say: that you still love this man, you want the marriage to continue, that
Absolutely.
you're not willingly going to go along with this divorce. If indeed he takes the next
No.
step, if he takes the next step, which means he would have to see an attorney, if indeed he takes the next step, then you've got some decisions, some hard decisions you'll have to make. The first thing I would recommend is if he does see an attorney that you do as well so that you and the kids are protected. But the decisions you'll have to be making, which are going to be kind of tough, will be, well, am I really going to let him live here and be divorced? Am I going to make that decision that I will allow that or not? And of course, you have to decide
No,
that
I
at some
can't.
point. Okay. Then
No.
when he says, I'm going to be a single father and that gives me freedom, I don't think he has a grasp of what being a single father is because there's still
No, absolutely not.
responsibilities.
Because he's well, I've told him, I said, who is a single parent when you're gone 2 weeks out of the month? It's me. And it is
Exactly.
not easy.
Exactly. Well,
So how you think you can handle it, I don't know.
well, since he's identified only one thing that you've told me about, which is the nagging, and I'm assuming that because you understand that you have stopped doing that. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
So I have no choice. He doesn't talk to me.
Okay, I can see that would give you no choice. At least you still got a sense of humor there,
Right.
Jania. That's a good thing. A sense of humor is a good thing. And you're working on the pies, becoming the best you can be. Right now, until he makes some kind of a move one way or the other, I don't know anything else you can do. There's no magic phrase, there's no magic action that will suddenly make him go, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? But if you consistently do what you're doing now, which is removing the negative, which you've done, even if he's the one who's made it happen, and creating the positives as much as you can, what we're hoping for is there's not some pull out there that you don't know about, okay? Something that's pulling him away other than the concept of being free. Now, that in and of itself is a pretty big pull, particularly in our society, because I'm sure he's surrounded by guys and maybe even gals, but he's surrounded by guys saying, man, you need to be free. You're young. You could do all these other things. But these people are chasing a fantasy. When you say midlife crisis, I don't actually think those exist per se, but people do wind up often chasing fantasies like, this is what life will be like. One thing you have going for you is that because he has not yet pursued the divorce, he is in a way already kind of living a little bit of that fantasy because he's gone a couple of weeks out of the month, those kinds of things. And probably because it's still relatively early into that, he's probably having fun, quote, end quote, okay? But at some point, that begins to deteriorate. At some point, it begins to be like, this is pretty empty. And so my recommendation is that you keep doing what you're doing now. And if you can hang on long enough, because, you have decisions you make about your life as well. If you can hang on long enough until he begins to realize that fantasy he's chasing is not what he thinks it's going to be, then there's a good possibility that this can be put back together. But that's going to be determined by if he decides to pull the plug and sees an attorney, that'll be a factor. Or you, if you finally just say, I can't live like that, that'll be the other factor. But right now, I think you're doing all the right things, my friend. I wish there was some magic button, but there's not. But I think you're doing all the right things. I'm impressed how strong you are.
Well, and then he tells me he's not attracted to me anymore.
Yeah. Well,
but yet he still wants to do that stuff. And it's like, do I keep doing that or no?
Well, I'm going to recommend that you go, let's see, I'm going to look to our producer. Jesse, did I not do a video on that recently? On making love with somebody in a situation where you're married?
There's making love while separated.
Yeah, making love while separated. It's the same principle. I'm asking our producer, and that's already up on YouTube, right? So what I'm going to recommend, Jenny, is this to you and anybody else with a question like that. Go to our YouTube channel. You go to youtube.com/marriagehelper. It's all big, one long word. If you subscribe, then you can see it's free. You can see all the videos we've done. Look for the one that I've done in the last few weeks about making love while separated. Now, you're not technically separated, but it's the same principle. And because I've got to move on to other callers here, I'm going to ask, if you will, go watch that video to find the answer to that. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Janina.
Okay.
Stay strong, my friend. I'm really impressed with her. I think that's a very, very strong young lady there.